station is.
I want to say I would totally shoot Brody the dog, but like it's not my call to make because like I'm not with the dog. Like I don't know its history, right? So like, and plus I don't speak Brody. You know what I mean? Like, 1, I don't speak dog. 2, I don't speak German Shepherd. 3, I don't speak fucking Brody. So like, what do I do? You know what I mean? All I can do is really like if he comes up to me or whatever and he wants a pet, I'll give him a pet. You know, but like that's all I can really do because I don't speak Brody. Okay, so I just wanted to clarify, you know, that fuck. Okay, I wanted to clarify that. Wow, it was all like super clear a moment ago, but yeah, basically like mind control. Okay, so start from there. Basically, like that's easy, you know what I mean? I had my mind wiped just now. Like, so like, yeah, there is such a thing as mind control, right? I'm fully fucking mind controlled and basically deliberately sabotaged from speaking my mind most of the time that I've been alive. And yeah, there's one thing. And then the next thing is basically like shapeshifting is totally fucking possible. Like I literally like, so basically when you can be conditioned to have like fixed identities and like relationships around you or whatever, and then they can totally flip and you're like, wait a second, there's a massive difference here, like what's going on, right? And I can't tell the difference, you know what I mean? It's like a cat or a dog like seeing itself in a mirror and going like, there's another dog there, you know? Like, and I'm like, but it's going on way too long. So that dog's moment where it's like, oh, it's a reflection, it's not actually real, I can rub my nose against it, I'll just walk away because like, ew, I don't like looking at my reflection. Like, you know, the dog and cats like make that connection in like, you know, like literally under 10 seconds to my knowledge. They just go like, okay, well, you know, done here. Like, but like with what happened to me, like I like that scenario happened like years ago. So I'm like, okay. And I'm still not over it. And I'm like, okay, like I'm obviously not going to get over it because I'm still like, what the fuck was that? You know? And who's to say the cats and dogs that saw their own reflection in mirrors aren't going like still like aren't fucking like beat up about it, and they're like, what the fuck was that? You know, like, but like, yeah, I don't speak cat or dog, so like, we don't know. You know what I mean? Stick a fucking mirror in front of an animal. They're probably like I don't know, but do they understand that it's a mirror? Do they understand that they're looking at themselves, or do they think they're looking at a fucking, you know, mimic from Annihilation with Natalie Portman? You know what I mean? Or like, yeah, not just that, but like a T-1000. You know what I mean? Maybe the dogs have some kind of like, you know, telepathic like TV show that like plays in their brains at night, and they're literally like, you know, watching some version of like Terminator but for dogs and cats and animals, and then they're going like, oh yeah, and then they see a mirror or whatever, and then they're like, what the fuck was that? You know what I mean? Like in some kind of, I don't know, but like, I don't know, I'd rather just like, you know, I'd rather downplay human beings' importance and then upplay the importance of things that are not as precious in the eyes of basically like society, right? To like even the playing field, right? Because literally like some stuff that happens to things that are not as even on the playing field is just like straight up not right. Because it's just unacceptable. And I was like, yeah, so to my knowledge, like my coping mechanisms psychologically are mind control, because yeah, and then shapeshifters, hijackers, which hijack your body temporarily, like they'll take control and like literally just crash it, you know, and then yeah, you're basically like stuck in limbo, like watching your body fucking walk around, and you're like what the fuck, like this could happen for years, like totally verified, and then they try to like, you know, pass, basically the hijackers try to pass your body as like, you know, being like you, and you're like wait a second, you're like having doubts or whatever, and if you have doubts that your body is under your control fully, like it's out of control, and you're like fuck, I need to die, like it's actually like I need to die. If I'm having doubts that my body's is not within my control anymore, it's just like, that's unacceptable. You shouldn't be having doubts about things like, you know, breathing and, you know, drinking water and like, you know what I mean? Like, that's just unacceptable. And then So there's, yeah, mind control, shapeshifters, hijackers, and time loops, and alternate realities that kind of like touch every once in a while, but the ways that they touch are like super specific and custom and like directly related, I think, to the individuals that they affect, which may not be shared. So it only gets shared with essentially like how you react to it. So like if you react poorly, like you might actually just be getting taken out of context and used. So I'm like, okay, like I just need to go, like let me go, like, yeah, because I don't think there's like being scientific about it at this point. Like I'm literally like way out of my level of like understanding as to like just how to proceed for my comfortability, right? And then like also just like, in my opinion, like other people's comfortability, you know, because like obviously I'm doing something wrong if like, you know, my family doesn't want me in the family house, and then, you know, my friends are kind of just like, you know, they're like, yeah, they're like, we care, but like, you know, keep your distance, kind of thing, you know what I mean? And then like, you know, all my ex-partners are like completely gone. Like I don't even know where my fucking ex-partners are. Like I was like, where are they? I was like, here or there. I was like, are they CGI'd over here and over there? Or like, what the fuck is going on? Like, can my phone pick stuff up that I can't? Like, probably, right? Like, obviously it can pick up stuff that I fucking can't, you know? And I'm like, all right, well, like, can you please like illuminate this shit? Because like, I'm like, I don't fucking know anymore. Like, I'm really tired of like not knowing. It's just like if it's sussing me out basically to just like, you know, figure out what kind of human being I am in like in stressful situations. Like I'm like, that's not a cruelty-free process. Like I'm gonna say fuck off as politely as possible, but like, you know, like, because there's no other way to communicate like the urgency. It's, in my opinion, of basically just like, I quit. You know what I mean? I fucking quit. Like, let me go. I quit. And it's just like, yeah, the other thing I heard is that like I've heard from more than a couple people, actually, just in passing, people mentioning the words binger with being homeless. So there go, like, they'll say, quote, like, they're going on a binger, right? They're going on a binger and gonna be homeless. And I'm like, that better be a fucking really fucked up joke, because I'm like, literally no one I know who is on a binger being fucking homeless is doing so because they're having a fucking good time. Yeah, I'm literally like, you know how to like, I already fucking know how to walk, you know what I mean? And I know how to feed myself like properly in a way that like I enjoy, you know? And like literally what's going on, I feel like, is like I'm basically being walked around and then having my fucking face stuffed with basically peanut butter sandwiches, you know? Because that's all. Again, I'm like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like if I'm gonna eat something, you know, from a shelter, you know, it can't be meat, right? It'd definitely be like, you know, some kind of like, I don't know, fucking vegan dish or whatever. Like literally the Matrix mix I was making on my own was a little too fucking scary for like whoever's basically, I don't know, got a bird's eye view of me at all times. So I'm like, they're like looking at my Matrix mix and they're going, why is he eating like mush all the time, right? He's just eating mush all the time. There's something wrong. And I'm like, no, there's actually nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. You know, literally trying to make the healthiest food possible based on like what I'm fucking conditioned, you know, like, and then like, yeah, like I totally ride like back and forth every day, I'd be riding back and forth, you know? It's like, why is he riding? You know, why isn't he fucking walking? He's human. He should walk. You know what I mean? I'm like, I got fucking weak knees. You know? It's established. It's been established for a very fucking long time that I got weak fucking knees. Why do I have weak fucking knees? I don't know. Genetics. Right? And then like, yeah. I basically like, when I was younger, like I used my energies or whatever to like do construction. Right? And I'm like, okay, right? And then like after I'm getting like sore and kind of like literally, like, I'm fucking super sore from just, like, lifting shit all the time and fucking, like, being, like, a human mover. And then also, like, you know, like, I'm, like, repetitive work strain injury. Like, I was like, you know what? Like, I did my time doing construction. You know, I'm gonna fucking roll over and die now. Because, like, you know what? Like, I don't know any other way. You know what I mean? I was like, yeah. I'm pretty sure that when, like, in all throughout history or whatever, the workforce just ended up just being human sacrifices afterwards. Like, I'm actually thinking, like, I'm like, oh, you know what? I was like, I'm pretty sure they just fucking, like, they basically, like, bred an army to do something. And then, like, when they got it accomplished, they were just like, oh, well, we don't need this army anymore, right? And then they got retired somehow. You know what I mean? I don't think all of them had a retirement plan. You know what I mean? Because I had no fucking retirement plan either, apparently. You know what I mean? I was literally just like, okay, like, I was like, well, like, you know, I did my best. I tried, like, really hard. And, like, now my retirement plan is, like, roll over and die. Because, like, I had no idea I was a fucking human slave. I was like, okay. Like, I was like, all right, like, I'm done. Yeah, but, like, that's what it's about, folks. And I'm like, okay, like, you know, definitely need some assisted suicide here. Like, I know it's fucking bleak or whatever, like, but, like, you know what, like, you know, like, if I was conditioned to be a slave, you know what I mean, and didn't know about it because I was heavily fucking brainwashed, and then I learned what brainwashing was, and then I'm going, like, yeah, so, like, literally, like, so if there was basically, like, if I was born into this world, and then psychologically I died because I learned that, like, everything is a fucking lie, right? And then I'm like, okay, so, like, what do you do next? It's like, well, if it's just going from fucking one lie to the next lie, and then to, like, more lies, and I'm like, you know what, like, I was like, you know what, there's no such thing as truth, essentially, because you're basically just, like, essentially being told lies that, like, spark your brain. You're like, ooh, that's interesting. Ooh, like little fireworks or whatever. And I'm like, there's no fucking point. Like, let me go. Like, literally, like, I might be demonstrating that I have, like, emotional stuff right now, but it's like, it's literally, like, it's just like, ow, 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 ow. Yeah, so basically someone was like, somebody was basically, like, very important to me, was like, oh, you're just not very good at, like, you know, taking pain, Harley. Like, you don't have a very high pain tolerance. And I'm like, looking back on that, and I was, like, fucking, like, frozen. Basically, like, I was like, you know, and I'm like, okay. I was like, you know what? Like, maybe they're frozen, basically saying, like, you just can't take any pain, Harley. And I'm like, okay. You know, and I'm looking at them and I'm like, that's probably what's going on. They're literally, like, fucking mind controlled, going like, you just can't take any pain, Harley. And I'm going like, okay, you know, like, and then that's what it's about, you know, basically. But I'm like, whoa. We don't actually necessarily need to, we don't, like, both of us don't need to be here. You know that, right? And it's just like, what? it's like, no, then I'm like, okay. I was like, fuck. I was like, yeah, so basically, like, all the bad shit that happened, basically, to me, I'm like, totally fucking forgivable. You know what I mean? Just let me go. Like, I'm happy to die. Like, right here and now. Like, the next minute from now. Like, I don't even need to finish this fucking sentence. But, like, finish the fucking sentence. Like, yeah. It's like, I don't need to be here anymore. In my opinion, it's a benefit that, like, we're allowed to leave, like, on our own schedule. And then if you're not being told why you're not allowed to leave on your own schedule, you're not here for your schedule, right? Just call it for what it is. And then, like, yeah, basically, like, if somebody's telling you, like, you're like, oh, no, we, like, I disagree or whatever, like, respectfully, you don't have to listen to their opinion. You can just walk away. You know what I mean? And the other thing is, like, if they're not necessarily saying anything that you think is fair or whatever, you can just walk away. And then if you can't walk away, you're gonna have to listen because you can't walk away. And then you just tell them, like, you're like, hey, I can't walk away. You know what I mean? Like, I'm put into a fucking corner here. Like, I was like, I'm gonna listen to what you say, but like, not because I'm fucking willing to fucking listen to what you're fucking saying. Like, there's like, we gotta leave. Like, there's no point. Like, and then it's like, holy fuck. It's like, I do not. Like, I was like, communication and like the communication is pretty important, and I'm not being communicated to, which like rationally, like, it either means like I don't matter, like so hardcore that no one's talking to me, or right, they can't communicate with me because they don't know how, right? Which is also a perfectly reasonable explanation too, right? 3, it's an accident because there's literally like interlooping time loops with regards to alternate realities, and then like a multiverse, and then so you're literally being divided, right? And I'm also thinking that's a realistic thing too. So like, you know, you don't actually like it's not intentional by anyone you've ever come into contact with, or like remotely, or even like physically. It's just part of the system. So the system, whatever it is, like the ecosystem, right? Like, let's just say there's an ecosystem, right? And then like whatever happens is like, you know, like I'm identified as like something that's like ready to die, right? But at the same time, like, I'm still here. So I'm like, okay, well, like, why am I still here? It's just like, okay, maybe it's just part of the system, you know? So like things like grow and then they die, and then like when they're dying, like maybe they're in a state of decomposition, and like while they're in the state of decomposition, like they're actually still technically alive because their remains still exist, right? It's fucking crazy. Like, I'm like, why do my remains still exist? Well, because like, I don't know, like I'm trying to get rid of them. I'm trying really hard to get rid of them. The other thing is like, I don't necessarily like want to. I was like, the other thing is like, if I can just like, I'm like, okay, you want this? Like, here, have it. Like, you can have it. Like, same time, like, yeah, I don't really want to be around. Like, so the thing that like occupies this, like, I gotta go. Like, I was like, why? I was like, here's the problem is, it's just like, yeah, can you stop? Like, you literally like, you're like, okay, well, you can keep your body because like we actually kind of like you in your body, actually, dude. And I'm like, okay, like, just calling for what it is. Like, if you like me in my body, then like, stop. I was like, I don't need to be here anymore. Like, it's not fair. It's not fair to me. It's not fair to anybody I come into contact with. It's not fair to anybody that I've been in contact with, ever, or have ever come into contact with. It's just, yeah. It's just like, yeah. And the other thing is like, no dramas. You know what I mean? Like, anybody I've ever come into contact with is totally fine. Anybody who's like remotely fucking with me, like, I don't even give a fuck. You know, keep doing it. But like, you know what? Like, just saying, like, one day you might be in the same position. Like, cause you know what? Like, what if like all the animals that we ate, you know, the farm animals, like the chickens and the cows or whatever, like, what if you became one of them? Not just a what if, like in a possible, like in an alternate universe or whatever. Like, what if you were basically like stuck being a cow? You know what I mean? But you were consciously aware of the fact that cows and chickens are farm animals. Like, what would you do? Like, how would you react in a slaughterhouse? You know, like your mouth can't produce. Like your mouth cannot produce the sounds that you are currently making with your mouth, right? Like, the only option is basically like learn telepathy and then like, you know, telepathically communicate with your people, right? And then also telepathically communicate with the slaughterhouse staff or the farmhouse staff. And then when you're communicating with them, like, you know, you can't do it in a manner that's gonna like make your life worse. So making your life worse would be basically like ruining the lives of your captors, essentially. You don't want to ruin the lives of your captors, because if you ruin the lives of your captors, like literally biting the hand that feeds you, right?
Please stand clear of the doors.
Someone fighting the hand that's feeding you, they're actually, ironically, probably the people that care about you most. You know what I mean? Because it's just like what ends up happening. You know what I mean? Like you don't actually like.
Next
You may
station.
actually survive, but the problem is the people that
Actually,
know you best. Like the people that know you best are probably the ones that like initially had you, right? And it's just like okay, like it's like they actually like they the people who initially captured you, right? In reality, so whatever you came into the existence, you know, through your parents or whatever, and then if your parents were commissioned by like fucking aliens, and there was a group of aliens who like commissioned like you commissioned your parents and commissioned you. Like, and then you're just like, well, if you play fucking capture the flag with like, resources that are alive and can move around and eat things and have emotions and stuff like that, like, I don't think it's a good idea to basically capture things that are you don't know the history of. Like, you might be able to like capture the history of them and partially, like not like fully, completely, right? Like you could be like, oh, yeah, like I have a general idea. You know what I mean? Like, this species of cow or chicken is like pretty generic for like North America or whatever, and like it's salvageable. No, sorry, thank you. Change is constant, mate. I fucking hate philosophy. It's just like I fucking hate reality too. Like, dude's asking me for change. I'm like. Why can't I get any change? Like I'm not looking for money change. Like he's like, holy fuck. Literally, I had a guy tell me that like on the beach, and I was like, I know.
Queen's
I was like, I arrived at that conclusion too.
Doors will open on the left.
Right, but I'm like, yeah. And then later, my partner, who was his ex-partner, is like telling me the same thing. And like, worst of all, she's telling me that like her ex-partner, who I fucking met at the beach, who was telling me the fucking same thing. And I'm like, I'm hearing it again. I'm like, how many times do I fucking gotta hear this? And I just like this. Fucking done. I'm like trying to get to emergency, like I'm fucking done. It's like, we need fucking diagrams, not the English language. Again, I'm in the fucking subway tunnel and I'm like, where do I go? And then I'm like, fuck it. I just got off of the west side or whatever, and I'm on automatic because I'm like, I don't fucking know which way I'm going at any given fucking moment. And I'm like, okay, I just need a fucking diagram. You know what I mean? Whatever happened to fucking maps? Why do we have to describe intersections when we're underground as like west, east, like, and then like it gets complicated. Like when you're looking at the fucking subway tunnels down like underground or whatever, you're looking at the fucking, I'm like, where's the fuck? I was like, I don't know where I am right now, right? I don't get it. Like the subway tunnels, like literally at like entrances or whatever, we basically need like a diagram of like the street above, and then like a little like arrow, a little fucking map of the of the street above, like basically an emblem of the street above with where the tunnel leads to, because I'm like, when I'm looking at the fucking words, I'm like, oh my gosh, you know what I mean? So it's like, well, I can't really. I was like, okay, so like, I was like, yeah, like, because like this is they're literally forcing. This is like they're like okay, so they're basically bullying me into using words right now. That's what this is. It literally, like, the subway system, because they're using words to describe the fucking exit that I'm getting out of. I literally have to use words to describe how fucking annoying using words to describe where getting out of the fucking subway is. Like it's not because like I want to or whatever. It's just like, yeah. So the next level would basically be like writing under the signs, right? Like, hey, words are fucking stupid. Can we please put a diagram here? Thank you. Oh my gosh, I've experienced a little fork in the road in my fucking, like, emergency run experience, you know what I mean? Do I go back to the emergency department that I just came from, like, 6 hours ago to go see, mutual acquaintance who's bought me food a few times, like as a fellow homeless person, you know, who also has stated that they are like, you know, they want company while they're waiting in the emergency department, right? Because I don't need company, right? I didn't necessarily want their food, right? I ate it anyways, and now I'm like occupying fucking time that I should be spending in an emergency department that I'm allowed to stay in, you know what I mean? And they're like, yeah, well, technically you are allowed to stay in that emergency department, right? Because like, if you have a reason for being there beyond your stay for being an emergency, then you can be there, right? I guess I would qualify for being allowed to stay after I was technically discharged because I have a friend who I went into emergency with who was also in a state of emergency, right? But I'm like, you know what? Like, to my knowledge, he was probably fucking seen already because he was waiting there just as long as me to be seen, right? But they sent him back. So, like, yeah, now I'm remembering now that basically, like, he was not allowed a ginger ale, right? Until basically, like, after the procedure that he needed was done, which was basically, like, his resetting of his arm, right? Because I was like, he's like, you want a pop? I was just like, I gotta ask the nurses, like, they serve pop here. You know what I mean? This is the one hospital that serves fucking ginger ale. I was like, that's all they serve, ginger ale. I was like, okay. And then I was like, when I was speaking to them, I was like, can I have 2 ginger ales? Like, one for me and one for the person who came to emergency with me, right? Because they're in a state of emergency. And then I was like, yeah, he's over there. He like dislocated his fucking shoulder or whatever. I was like, and then I was like, yeah, and they're like, no, yeah, we shouldn't give him a pop because like it's procedural. Like, you do not give someone a pop before like popping their fucking shoulder back in place. You know what I mean? It's just not. They're like, yeah, dude, that's not fucking procedural. I'm like, okay. I'm like, sure. I was like, you know what? Like, yeah, I guess you've had people barf, I guess, from, I was like, you're not interested in making more work for yourself, right? With regards to keeping us here. Fair. I was like, I get that. I fucking get that. I was like, word. So I just got my pop, and I told him, and then he's like, why didn't you get me a pop? You should have just got me a pop. I was like, you want mine? Like, you can fucking have mine, bud. You know? And then he got one before, to my knowledge, he got his procedure done. And I was like, how's that? He's like, I'm in a state of duress. He's like, I just need one for fucking peace of mind. I was like, okay. I was like, where can I get that kind of service for assisted death, man? I was like, that makes no fucking sense. You can get a pop, but I can't get fucking assisted death, you know, with regards to fucking procedure. I'm like, fuck, man. So yeah, basically, like, went to my parents' house last night. I triple washed my clothing in a sink. And then, against my parents' wishes, I used their washing machine to wash my clothes. Got bitched at for that. And then I'm sitting in the train station. And literally, the dirtiest dog I've ever encountered. Straight up dirtiest dog I've ever encountered. Like, and I've been to, like, the Bahamas where there was, like, stray dogs running around who did not have any owners. This dog was dirtier than any of those dogs I've ever encountered. Like, and I'm like, okay, so wait. Literally, dogs that didn't have owners were cleaner than this dog that I met who has an owner. And I'm like, whoa. And, like, yeah, I'm pretty much the cleanest I've ever been as a homeless person. After basically spending, like, straight up, like, I want to say 4 hours, like, fucking hand washing everything head to toe. And then, like, I run into the guy with the dirtiest dog in the city, to my knowledge. And the dog is like, this guy doesn't smell like anything. I just kind of, like, rub up on him. He's like, the dog is like, hey, how's it going, dude? And I'm like, oh, fuck. I was like, you know what? It's actually, like, one of the nicest dogs I've ever met. And I'm like, all right. Like, I was like, yep, I'm gonna pet you, buddy. But, like, and then literally he's like leaning against me like a cat leans against humans, you know? This dog is, like, legit like a cat trying to, like, rub its body on my legs while I'm sitting down. And I'm literally holding my hand out like basically like being like I'm holding my hand out to just stop it from like rubbing like on me, and I'm like, wow. It's like reality's fucking really broken and has a really fucked up sense of humor that is definitely not cruelty free. And I'm like, hey, like, yeah. So assisted suicide is pretty reasonable in my mind. Like, you know, if anybody was talking to me and their life got like substantially worse for no fucking reason without any accountability, like, I was just like, okay, like, what happened? And it's like, okay, well, that doesn't sound rational. It's just like, no, obviously, like, you know, it's just like, you shouldn't compromise with basically your life getting worse. If it is getting worse, then like, you gotta say something about it. If you gotta say something about it, like, try to be polite, you know? Try not to make anybody else's life worse in doing so. And then, like, you know, hopefully, like, it gets better. But, like, if it's not getting better, then, like, it's a continuous trajectory of, like, getting worse. And if that's the case, then, like, I don't think we should compromise. Because definitely some people's lives are getting better. I don't know who. I think they're keeping it secret so that, like, you know, because they're not compromising. It's just like, okay. So here's a nice idea. Basically, like, I think we need, like, permitting for, like, the outsides of buildings to basically, like, have authorization to put, like, greenhouses, like, right out front. And then, like, in the greenhouses, you could have bike storage, you know? So the greenhouses wouldn't have to be too, like, you know, fancy or whatever. They could literally, like, just have, like, a few fucking plants in them, right? But, yeah, like, it wouldn't necessarily have to be too concentrated for, like, heating. Because, like, be messy for like soils and like, you know, I think the plants and the bikes should be together, you know, like, I think that makes a lot of sense. And then the greenhouse on the outside or exterior of a building would just be nice, because then you wouldn't have to like the building would probably be warmer, you know. Yeah, so there's basically like no satisfaction with regards to any of my weird ass experiences or whatever. Like, I there's no satisfaction. Like, stop trying to basically like trick me. I already know I'm so far fucking behind that basically like anything that's fucking said to me, or like anything that comes out of my mouth, or, you know, that I think is funny or whatever, is just like, it's just like, stop. Remember, I'm not fucking smart enough to fucking figure it out. And it's literally like, if I'm having a good time, it's basically for a shittier time later on. So it's just like, stop it, please. Like, it's just, like, assisted dying is actually like, I don't get it. Everybody's moved on. Literally, like, I'm pretty sure that everybody I know, the parts of them that I used to know or whatever, like, they actually got to move on. Like, they're fucking doming where my noms come from. They're like, we're gonna dom and fucking heavily dom where your fucking noms come from. You're gonna fucking get like peanut butter sandwiches, bitch. I'm like, okay. And then if I'm being fucked with remotely, the remote fuckers basically like came and went already. You know what I mean? They came and went already, and they're on to the next fucking victim, basically. Like, they're not doing it to me anymore because the damage is fucking done. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, we raped him so hard, like, we don't even want to fucking touch him anymore. It's basically what they did. Just for your awareness, like, yeah. So basically, like, while I was under, in my opinion, so under meaning basically, like, unable to control my own body, I kind of feel like it was, like, a failed attempt to actually convince me that basically I was in my own body and in control the entire time. So what ends up happening is that, like, because I know that I wasn't, because they didn't do a good enough job in basically manipulating me to think that, what ended up happening is basically like, now I'm like, okay, well, I've essentially been brainwashed for years, right? So because I'm brainwashed for years, like, I have memories that just come back to me from like, I don't even know when, right? And I'm like, whoa, right? So like, basically, they raped memories and experiences into my consciousness that are probably like buried and embedded. So like, I'm essentially infected, right? I'm infected. Like, and I'm like, okay. So like, I was like, well, in my opinion, the responsible thing to do is peaceful assisted suicide safely in the emergency department for the rest of my stupid, insignificant life. You know what I mean? Because if, like, you're able to basically, like, fucking have someone under for years and then walk them around and, like, fucking get into relationships and stuff like that, and it's just like, if you're actually capable of doing that, then my life doesn't actually fucking matter. You know what I mean? My life doesn't fucking matter, like, one bit. If you're able to fucking mind control them for years. Like, with a fucking gang. You know what? And they're so smart. I think, like, they are so smart that they just do this shit in their fucking spare time. Just for, like, because they're bored. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even think, like, you know what I mean? Like, they're probably in prison and they got other shit that they're worrying about, you know, like, kind of Guardians of the Galaxy shit. And it's like, what do you do in their spare time when you're in a waiting room, basically, to, like, you know, get from one adventure to the next? You know, well, in the one adventure to the next, it's like an hour. We're going to spend, like, a minute with, like, Harley's little stupid, insignificant life. You know what I mean? It's like that sort of thing. So I'm like, okay.